This was Ole Miss's best chance at winning a national championship. I know that may sound a little bit crazy, but hear me out, please. When you have a high-flying offense that led the SEC in scoring with 37.5 points, with a rocket arm quarterback that is not afraid to throw the ball down the field, and Jaxson Dart, you have some really solid weapons such as Trey Harris, Caden Lee, Jordan Watkins, and many others. That is a recipe for success in the SEC, looking like 2019 LSU Tigers. And on the defense, you have probably the best pass rushing defensive line in the entire nation. Two guys had 10.5 sacks. You had two other guys with seven or more sacks. At the linebacker core, you have Chris Paul Jr., which is probably one of the best linebackers in the nation. And you have guys like Trey Amos and John Sanders Jr., both with 3 interceptions. Very solid, well-balanced defense. Have the recipe for success, just like on offense. But it all came crumbling down because they just could not win the key games. So, after starting off 4-0, the Ole Miss Rebels hosted the Kentucky Wildcats in their first SEC play of the 2024 season. And it was a very ugly and fluky loss for the Rebels, man. After the Kentucky Wildcats got a fluky game-leading touchdown because the running back fumbled the ball, but the offensive player was just right there at the right moment and he walked into the end zone. Jaxson Dart kind of struggled to bring the ball down the field, and he had to kick a field goal in a weird angle, and the kicker was just not ready, and he missed it wide left. Ouch. So, that's a L, chalk it up and move on. So the next week they will go on the road to take on South Carolina, and they killed South Carolina. No need for me to cover that game, 27-3. But the very next week they will travel down to LSU to take on the Tigers, and man, they were so close yet so far. Hopefully that makes sense. But anyways, man, less than 2 minutes to go in the game, LSU drove the ball down the field to tie the ball game 23-23. So perfect, we're going to overtime. Ole Miss get the ball first, and what do? Jaxson Dart puts the ball in harm's way not once but twice on back-to-back plays, looking like Jameis Winston and not Patrick Mahomes. Come on, Jaxson, do better, man. And this was the theme pretty much throughout the season. Jaxson Dart sometimes put the ball in harm's way unnecessary. Like, dude, I know you have a rocket arm. Like, we all know that, but play it safe sometimes, bruh. They get a field goal. And let me add this real quick. Ole Miss's O-line was not very good this game, pass blocking wise. They gave about 6 sacks, and Jaxson Dart, his jersey was dirty. And so when LSU gets the ball, they got some momentum. They just scored on a game-tying touchdown. Defense forces 3. What do? They get a touchdown and they win the game 29-26 in first overtime. So that's 2 losses. Yikes. And it's kind of hard to climb back with 2 losses. And even though it's 12 teams, 2 losses is 2 losses. And they will go on a 3-game winning streak, beating Oklahoma at home, going down to Arkansas and winning that game 63-31. Guy had 5 touchdowns, which is insane. And then they play my Georgia Bulldogs at home. And we all thought, hey, this is the end of the road. We're going to take their 3rd loss here tonight. And they won pretty convincingly, 28-10. They made Carson Beck look like a fool out there, which was crazy. I remember watching that game, and Carson Beck did not look like Carson Beck. He looked like a tool, okay? But the very next week, they will go down to play Florida. In this game, they're supposed to win this game. Florida had a freshman quarterback in DJ Lagway. And don't get me wrong, DJ Lagway, he's played phenomenal all season. And let me add this, that Florida defense was very inconsistent. It was very inconsistent up until that point. Teams were passing left and right. Cam Ward, Carson Beck, Gwen Ewers, all these dudes looking crazy passing the ball. And Jaxson Dart, you could have been one of those dudes. You could have been like Patrick Mahomes out there. But no, you threw critical interceptions time and time again. And one thing that I keep forgetting to add is the fact that Ole Miss never really had a running game develop all season long. They had some decent semi-running backs, but they never really utilized them to their full potential. All they want to do is just throw the ball down the field like it's Madden or something. And that was their 3rd loss, was versus a very bad Florida team. So Kentucky wasn't that good. It was a fluky L. Versus LSU, okay, they could have played better. I'll give them that. That was a tough game. But versus Florida, they should have won. So that's two of those 3 games they should have won. But they beat Georgia, which they were supposed to lose that game. If Carson Beck actually had a brain that day, they would have lost probably. But anyways, man, they finally beat Mississippi State in their last game of the season, which they kind of struggled in the first half. If I'm not mistaken, I did watch that game a little bit. But But honestly, man, I think that was the point of this 12 playoff team bracket, was to have teams like Ole Miss sneak in and make a deep playoff run, or hell, win the whole dang thing. But they couldn't get the job done versus teams that they were supposed to win against. Had they won versus Kentucky or versus Florida, I do think they would be number 10, number 11, maybe even number 12, but we'll never know. And this season is pretty much a waste of a season from the standpoint of a team having championship aspirations with a loaded roster. Again, 2 guys had 10.5 sacks. You have a rocket arm quarterback. You have probably one of the best off-ball linebackers in the country, and Chris Paul Jr. And again, it's just all wasted, man. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I do think they do have a chance to get in the playoffs if a team loses out in their conference championship. I want to say Boise State, because they're like number 10, and Ole Miss is number 13. SMU maybe, and I think that's it. But again, I mean, if you win the games that you're supposed to win, you would have no issue with this, and you would be in the playoffs. But right now, they're the outside man looking in. I'm hoping that they do sneak in, because I do want to see this team in the playoffs.